Hello and welcome back to another episode of Politically Hopeless. This week we are doing my idea, which means we're going to have a casual, chilled episode. Who knows what we're going to talk about. And then next week we'll be back with a serious, hard-hitting, topical issue, which is Ollie's idea. How do you feel about
he's decided that and told me it in real time. I'm sure.
Yes.
I'll come up with something. Yeah,
right. So first of all, we're going to discuss what topics we're going to cover this evening briefly.
What's your vision?
And then
What's the vision?
We're going to see where the wind takes us. What's the vision? I like that. Okay. So first thing we definitely have to chat about, Penguin Mountain. Okay.
Yes.
It's really affected me this week. Literally, like genuinely, yeah. So I want to see your take on it because the really interesting thing about Penguin Mountain is everyone has a different take.
Yeah, okay. I did think this would be an interesting thing to discuss because I didn't actually know about it until this morning when you told me you wanted to talk about it. But I've watched some videos, and I didn't know where it was going to take us. So we'll see.
Yeah. We also should talk about the guy shot with ice. It's quite serious, but it's interesting.
Serious. That's a good word. It's like you're learning empathy.
Yeah. Well, don't wait till we start chatting about it.
Getting there.
What was his name? We need to know that.
Alex Pretty, I believe.
How do you know this stuff? Amazing.
I just go on Twitter, which I think you do as well.
What else? I do, yeah. My Twitter doesn't refer to him by this actual name. What else do you want to talk about?
I dread to ask. I don't know. Another thing that's happened is the Reform keeps filling themselves with Tories. But
yes.
I think we should start with penguins because penguins seems like the sort of territory that's not been thrashed out.
Absolutely. Give us one more.
Qualified
one more. I want 4, and we'll start into penguins.
You want 4?
Do you have any other suggestions?
I don't know. I was just thinking we were going to talk about penguins for an hour.
Well, we probably will, but right, we'll just go for it. We'll go with that. Right, so Penguin Mountain, for those of you who don't have a clue what it is, I will edit in a clip, but I can't play the music because it's copyright.
These penguins are all heading to the open water to the right. But one of them caught our eye, the one in the center. He would neither go towards the feeding grounds at the edge of the ice, nor return to the colony. Shortly afterwards, we saw him heading straight towards the mountains, some 70 kilometers away. Dr. Ainley explained that even if he caught him and brought him back to the colony, he would immediately head right back for the mountains.
If you want to watch the actual full effect Penguin Mountain, go on your phone or don't leave the podcast. Go and look at it somehow and see what you think of it. It really possibly might deeply affect you because it deeply affected me. But what did you think of it, Ollie, first before we get into
so this is something that's been around for a very, very long time, right? So I watched a video on it earlier that explained it, and my understanding of it is that in like 2005, someone made a documentary about penguins that
2007, I think.
No. I've done research. 2005.
Ooh.
It was narrated by Morgan Freeman, and it basically said that penguins are monogamous. So you have the mother and father, and they have a nuclear family with a child, right? And then Americans took this as like, we like the idea of a nuclear family, and this has been legitimized by nature because you get it in nature, and therefore, exactly. See, this is the interesting thing because
this is right up my street.
Yeah, right. And this is a very common thing. I mean, on my YouTube channel, I talk about this all the time. If you have something you want to justify, you can point to where you see it in nature, which is something that the aristocracy do a lot. They say there are hierarchies in nature, therefore we can be better than other people. A similar thing, right? But then someone else in 2007 made another documentary that sort of challenged that because apparently penguins are not actually monogamous. The monogamy lasts for 1 year, and then they will switch it up a bit. So the parallel between the American vision of the nuclear family and nature doesn't quite stand. He's looking that up. But then within this documentary was a penguin that abandoned its colony and walked towards some mountains, which is also away from the sea, which seems like a self-destructive and irrational behaviour. So the question is, why is that penguin
Self-destructive and irrational. What?
because it's abandoning its colony. I don't know that much about penguins, which I guess is why this is interesting. But
That's interesting. Is
it's
that what you took
abandoning-
from it?
no. I'm just this is the nature of the
All right,
question,
okay.
right? So
Right, okay.
if you're trying to understand what that penguin's doing, it's abandoning its colony, which is presumably they need the colony to live for some reason, which is why they move around in
Yeah.
them, and they get heat obviously from the colonies when they all stand together. And it's walking away from the sea, which is where it gets food, right? So it's walking
Yep.
into the unknown. It's taking a great personal risk to do so, yet it's doing so
Yep.
with great conviction. And when the scientists there try and lead him back to the colony, he just turns around and walks back towards the mountains. So
Yep.
the question that has been asked for about 20 years now is, what is this penguin doing? And then people impose different views on that sort of range in my sort of understanding from the kind of harmless, like, oh, he's depressed, he's had enough of everything. I feel like that.
Yeah.
I feel like wandering off into the mountains. To some of the edits have Hitler in, which I
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah.
He's seen that. Is that why you
No,
wanted
I
to
actually
talk about
haven't.
this?
I'll be looking that up later, though.
Yeah, okay. Well, in one of the edits I saw, it was a clip from what must be like a quite high-profile film with penguins in. I don't know, like Happy Feet or something. And there's a baby penguin in it, and he says, no, an older penguin says to him, "We will just lose some eggs. Like there is sort of tragedy in the world, and we have to just accept that." And then the baby penguin says, Why must we accept that? I want to reject nature." And then Hitler flashes on the screen, and you get the video of the penguin wandering off into the mountains. I'll send you it afterwards. But
Interesting, okay.
yeah,
But what
I'm
did you
gonna
take
stop.
from it? What did you take from it? It's not meant to be an explanation. You've missed the point of memes. What did you take from it when you watched it? What was
No,
your
that was just
feeling?
that was my attempt at context. I was just setting up the question.
Okay.
What do I take from it? Well, unfortunately, I'm just going to give the sort of answer that you're not going to like here. But like, I've had a lot of run-ins with vegans and such at university, and I think it's very important when understanding what animals want to try and look at it from the perspective of the animal, which is not what you're doing because you're trying to impose a feeling upon it, right? But
Yeah.
upon the little bit of research that I did, I think there was some consensus that the penguin essentially had something wrong with it and was either somehow like broken in a way that it didn't know how to navigate, or it had some sort of disease in its mind that meant that it was confused essentially. I'm not sure I completely buy the sort of disorient, because some people, the word disoriented was used.
Interesting. You kind of tried to understand why
Rational.
it was
Rational.
actually
Is that the word you're looking for?
rational. Yeah.
Rational.
You took a very rational view. That's fascinating. No, so for me, it was this concept of the penguin had a vision. The penguin had a goal, and no matter the cost, no matter the consequence, he just headed off and stuck to his goal. No matter what people told him, he was principled. He stood by what he believed. He wanted to get to the mountains, and no one was going to tell him any different. And
There's so many questions there,
appealed.
dude. Right? I get the kind of Protestant work ethic penguin. You know, he's got his own interpretation
Yeah.
of the Bible. He's grinding. You can't stop
Yeah.
him. I get that. But
Yeah.
did he achieve that? Did he reach the mountains?
We don't need to know. It's about believing in something greater than yourself. It's about, and there is other people. Now, this wasn't my initial interpretation, so I could lie to you and pretend it was, but it wasn't. But afterwards, I read some other interpretations, just like you did, and a very common one is that he just had faith that he would get to the mountains, and when he got there, things would be better. And a lot of people were relating that to religion and a life after this one, which I kind of wish I'd thought of that. It would have been better than my idea of like just setting a vision and going for it. But like, I don't know, I feel like everyone is something different. And it honestly, now it kept coming up on my social media, but my goodness, did that penguin seriously get me this week? I don't know why.
Interesting. Yeah,
been
but
very
there's
passionate about it.
there is like also Trump is tied into this, which you must be aware of.
Because of his edit. His edit was unbelievable.
It was just an image, wasn't it? Or was it an edit?
Yeah, no, it was Trump and the Penguin
Yeah,
walking
yeah.
together.
So in that you have Trump and the Penguin, who are I think just side by side. The Penguin's holding an American flag, and the mountains have
Yeah,
a Greenland flag on them. So I'm laughing.
yeah.
It's not funny. It isn't funny.
It is funny.
It's,
It really
it
is
isn't.
funny.
The thing is that it's not. This is the point I made last week, where you sort of stuff that's not okay.
But that,
If
that
articulated in a humorous way, then sort of dodges
but
the
that
fact
was
that
my
it's not
initial
okay.
that was my initial reaction to it. The idea of like people in America like Charlie Kirk, right? Setting out with this ambition and this goal that he was going to change American politics and starting out with a table on a college campus on his own when he was like 19, but he still had that vision. He
God,
had
see,
that self-belief.
you're
He
pushing
set the
me to say
goal.
things that I ordinarily would not
What?
say on
What do you
record.
mean?
Well,
No, I'm pushing you
well,
to say.
right, okay,
But
I'm
that's
gonna.
what gets to me. Like that, it's like it. But for me personally, right? I like a little part of me really wants to get into politics, but a big part of me is like, no, I'm not going to get the sort of ultimate power which I crave to actually change stuff. Like I'll just waste 20 years faffing about with a bunch of civil servants. But then you see that flipping penguin, and you're like, if a penguin can do it, I can do it. Do you know what I mean? It's inspiring. We can save this
I
country.
feel
Ollie.
like
We
this
genuinely
is, like,
can.
I feel like you've just discovered a metaphor. It's like, is in the concept of metaphor, and you're very excited about it
Yeah,
because you're seeing
that
how you
is so
feel.
accurate.
I mean, this is
so
fundamentally the
accurate.
concept of art, really, isn't it? It's a representation of human experience, and you've discovered this, and you've gone, "This is the most
I
amazing
have,
thing."
yeah.
It's like a
That's
poem.
exactly it.
Yeah,
Oh,
very
I'm not.
interesting.
I'm not gay. I'm not getting into poetry.
It's not.
Sick.
That doesn't make it gay, and also you've just. Oh, you can't be doing that, right? And what I mean by that is just dropping
This
in
is the
random
chilled
science
episode.
fast enough
is
that
the
they can't be
chilled episode.
addressed with. Nah. That's not in
Right,
any
go
way
back. Charlie Kirk.
derogatory.
What were you going? What were you going to say
I was
about
just,
Charlie Kirk?
I was just going to make a. Oh no, you're pushing me beyond where I want to be, which is that Charlie Kirk fundamentally was a
good human being.
he was not. He spent a lot of time defending the principle of school shootings, and then
Oh my word!
died
What?
by that very particular sword. So did he change politics, or did he just preserve?
So what do you
one
mean stand by?
particular
As in
status quo?
stood up for the Second Amendment?
Well, he said that. Well, I'm paraphrasing, but fairly exactly.
Yeah,
that
did he say it, though?
A
I will
number of
fact check
deaths
you.
in school were worth the right that you get. And of course, there is a great irony if we're just to very briefly tie this into what's going on at the moment in America, with Republicans now saying that you can't be carrying a gun. So
No, they did not say that.
yeah, no.
But Charlie Kirk had his principles, and he stood by them, and that's important. That's important.
I to be honest with you, I don't think Charlie Kirk is was a credible intellectual. Well, a credible intellectual. I don't.
He
he's just
changed
a
the
me-
world.
He was just man. It's just a meme. Come on, we're all Charlie Kirk.
What? We are all Charlie Kirk.
You just said we're
I'm
all
still
Charlie
sad
Kirk,
about that.
basically.
I'm sad.
Well,
about that.
like
I'm still
obviously.
sad
I don't know. Talking about penguins is much more interesting. But to return to the penguin point,
yeah.
the sort of right-wing political element of it, I don't really quite understand. And I was talking to this about this with someone just before we started recording, and they said, "Well, you've got to bear in mind that like a lot of memes and edits are made by kids, and they think that Hitler's funny because of the taboo surrounding it. So maybe
No, that's not it at all. They're not made by kids at all.
there's people your
Like-
age, is it?
Y-
Do you make
yeah,
edits?
yeah. No, I don't. But like, there is a lot. Like, and this is not like, to be clear, right? To be clear, let me just lay out my position on Hitler here, because this is dangerous territory. This is dangerous territory for me, right? Okay.
Oh man.
I can put myself in the position of a German in the 1930s.
Hang
And I
on,
can
wait, stop
abso-
there. That's empathy.
Yeah.
You're empathizing, and you don't believe in
I have
that.
empathy. Yes, I do. What are you talking
That's
about?
That's suicidal. I'm
No,
sorry, I'm being
suicidal
silly
empathy is where it's to a detriment. I am very good at empathy.
there. Okay, but when
Ask my wife.
the Germans do it, that's
No, I'm good at
strength.
empathy with everyone. That's why I
I'm
don't
sorry,
fall out with people.
I'm being
But
silly.
anyway,
I'm
my point
sorry, I
is,
derailed you.
I can imagine if I was in 1930s Germany, my current worldview, right, I would be a big fan of Hitler. That's just, anyone who denies that is lying. There's so many contrasts. They think the country's broken. I think our country's broken. I believe in nationalism. They believe in nationalism. But see, once you get to like 1937, 38, he goes totally mental, and I don't know how anyone agreed with him from then on. Right? Is that clear?
Right, you see, of the many problems
How is
with
that not? Why have I?
You just said 1937, right? The first concentration camp, Dachau, was 1933. So, like, immediately
but he
saying
wasn't killing people. He
you're
wasn't
like,
exterminating people.
well,
He was maybe locking people
Night
up.
of the Long Knives and that, they killed Rom in 1934, off the top of my head. So
Yeah,
they,
I'm not. Listen.
that was fine. That was fine.
I'm making a
Be killing people.
generalization.
Yeah, but this
I'm
is the
making a
problem, you see.
generalisation.
I think if you do want to be a politician, saying things like, I empathise with people who supported Hitler until 1937, implicitly suggests that you think that everything he did before then was fine. Well, no, explicitly.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't.
It does.
It doesn't in any way. It doesn't. It just means that I can imagine, right, that if I was to say that if I was a German and then I would have stood up and fought against him, that's totally uncredible. Because loads of his policies from the early days, I just know they align really closely to some of the things I believe in, right?
Yeah, whoa, Jesus, man.
But, right?
Do you want to give some
I said
examples?
some. Just the whole national identity thing, reindustrializing Germany, looking after Germans first, trying to bring the country back to its former glory, blaming the treaty and for the demise of Germany. Like, some of his early speeches, so much of what he talks about is relatable to today. And
Right.
you can't get around that.
None of those things are policies. They are all campaigning points. They're feelings.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
Blame these people.
yes.
Blame that. Point
That's
to
how
this.
he got.
Foster
But that's
this.
how he got into power.
Yes, but
That's
they're
how he
not
got into
policies.
power.
You're not. You just said.
Yes, it was the policies that
support-
went wrong. The policies are where he went wrong.
Yeah, but
That's
do you
why I
understand
used-
do you understand the difference though? You just said that a lot of his policies were good, and then you listed basically a bunch of propaganda points. Right, you said I agree with the feelings that these talking points are supposed to foster. Right, but that's a very different thing to saying that actually a lot of the
I didn't say.
things
I didn't
the
say his
government did-
policies. I didn't say his policies. I said a lot of what he said. That's exactly what I said. And then whenever he got all power in like 1937, was it? In the referendum?
No.
You tell me. You know your history much better than me.
No.
point
Jesus
is- the
Christ,
point
come on,
is-
right? No,
But
absolutely
wait,
not.
I haven't even
no,
made my point.
Yes, but because you keep saying things that are absolutely abhorrent, right?
No, they're not. Oh my word!
Right.
What? How are you getting confused
You're making
here?
historical statements about things that you know nothing about, right? Hitler came to power democratically through an election
Yes.
in 1933.
Yes.
Right? I am talking
Yes.
off the top of my head. Maybe I'll get this wrong, right? But he had a check on his power in the form of
Yes.
the president, I think it was, who was
Correct.
Hindenburg, who died in 1934, and then Hitler had absolute power.
When did he have the referendum to make him all powerful?
Well, he was all powerful from 1934, and it was patently clear to people who were paying attention to what was going on that was the case, right? So, like, my objection here is that you're making statements in favour of some extremely horrific things without actually having the historical knowledge to back it up.
My point was simply to clarify that I do not support what he done, but in the same time saying that I can imagine if I was a German in the early days, I also would have been duped. That is exactly my point. His propaganda would have worked.
Okay, so...
But this is all to say, okay, that some of the TikTok Hitler edits, right, they get terrifying amounts of support. That was my entire point of this conversation.
Okay, no, that's fine. We can take that. So as someone who... Well, I'm going to speak for you briefly, but as someone who is able to empathise with the situation of Germany in the early 1930s who sees a similar thing happening today and is conscious of the horrors
Yes.
that followed what happened in Germany, what are you doing
Yes.
to insulate both yourself and others within your community from falling into the same trap?
Because there is no comparison today. Like, people might call the Republicans in America Nazis, but that's not true. People
Yeah, but
might call
you
reform.
just made a comparison. You said you see the
No, I
TikToks today
didn't.
and you
I
see how
put
people fall into the same trap.
I put myself back in Germany in 1930. That is the comparison.
Right, okay, so
It's
there
not
are a
bringing
few...
it forward.
just to go back to what you said there, where there is no comparison, there are comparisons, right? You have Greg
There is
Bavino,
some things, yes.
who
Yes.
wears like a kind of SS-style long coat,
That's
which is
not
obviously
a
intentional.
that's not a comparison. That's
Right,
not the
yeah, but
valid
you've got
comparison.
Elon Musk doing Nazi salutes. I've seen Greg
No, he
Bavino
didn't.
do a
No,
Nazi salute.
Ollie,
No,
Ollie, no.
Right.
That is
But
ridiculous.
also,
That
you
is
have the
ridiculous.
Department of Homeland Security puts out graphics that explicitly emulate both slogans that were used by the Nazis and American racist Manifest Destiny stuff, right? So you have this sort of fusion of these two things that is being actively promoted by the government.
Nonsense.
The American government
Utter nonsense.
is...
Utter nonsense.
Well, you say... do you want me to... I'll find some examples if you like to... If you would
No,
like to
you're going to
respond
find.
to
There's
that
an. Right,
point.
I'll give you. I've seen the examples. Right. There's a
Oh,
tattoo.
you just
in one of
denied
them.
it.
I don't even. Yes, but they're
You
not
just
real.
said,
I've seen.
utter
I've seen.
nonsense,
I've seen the
and then
left
you
wing
said, "Oh, I've
examples.
seen it."
But no, I've seen the left wing examples. There's one guy has a tattoo. Is it Ted Hoffman? I can't remember. One of the senior politicians. It might be Pete. It's Pete Hegseth. It's the Defense Secretary of War guy, and he has a tattoo on his chest. And I seen an article which said that he has a Nazi tattoo. Oh my goodness. And then I done some Googling, and it's like a symbol that originated in like the Crusades. It's a Christian symbol.
Okay, so
So,
one of these,
lies.
which I'm looking up as we're going. Well, no, you just that
Yes.
wasn't an example that I brought up, right? So
Okay,
you have
give
a
me an
poster.
example.
The Department of Homeland Security recently posted an image of a horse rider with a B-2 bomber overhead, superimposed with the text, "We'll have our home again." That phrase is nearly identical to the lyrics from a song by a group affiliated with the Mannerbund, which is a far-right folk group that draws upon Germany's ethno-nationalist Volkisch movement. And then the quote is, "Oh, by God, we'll have our home again." So they're drawing upon Nazi art, essentially, to do that. But this is like, you suggested that there is no parallel, even though you yourself made a comparison.
Yeah, but am I like how random do you have to go that you're finding a
It's
German
not random.
folk
That's
band?
the point. It's quite deliberate.
What was the German folk band called?
Mammerbund, I think.
Mama
No, sorry,
Band.
it's a group affiliated with the Mannerbund. The Mannerbund must be some sort of
So it doesn't even give you the name
folk
of the group.
movement. Well, no. I think this obviously isn't an article about that, but my understanding from this is that the Mannerbund would be like a
Yeah,
back
but
to the land.
you
kind of
understand-
movement, which we had in this
you
country
understand-
as well.
Yeah, but you
Like
understand my
back in the
point
day.
that it's an unnamed group associated with another group who is on the far right, who said something similar to a statement which is "We'll have our home again." I mean,
in
you're stretching
August-
a wee bit. Is
In
that not
August,
fair?
the Department of Homeland Security posted an image across multiple platforms that included the line, "Which way, American man?", a reference to the book Which Way, Western Man, written by the late neo-Nazi William Gailey Simpson, and later published by the far-right press National Vanguard Books. Like, they don't even hide it, man.
I have a stash of them. They're good
That's
books.
where it ties to the Manifest Destiny stuff that I mentioned earlier. See, I did know about this, it just was not at the forefront of my mind. It's all about remigration.
Right,
which
even
we
if
love.
this is all true, right? Even if this is all true,
Well,
right?
it is true.
Right, that's fine. Let's go with that. Let's say it's all true, right? Are you seriously saying that the current Trump administration is in any way like the Nazis?
Yeah. Because they're illegally killing their own citizens. I mean, Christ.
They're not.
like-
This brings us on to Alex Pratty, whatever you call him, right?
Preti, you're doing it again. We've talked about this.
I didn't know how to
You-
say him.
You
Alex
disparage
Preti. Alex
people
Preti.
who you don't respect by
Alex
deliberately mispronouncing their names.
Alex Pratty, right? This brings us nicely onto him, right? Can you not understand that what happened there? Like, he was videoed 11 days before, attacking an ICE agent and kicking an ICE police car, smashing the lights.
I don't think the people that
Okay.
dealt with him on the day knew that, and I think you only found out about
No,
this
but
several days after the
it
fact
shows
as
you
well.
it shows you that he wasn't an innocent bystander. Okay.
He wasn't
It
an
shows you
innocent
that he was-
bystander, right? I think you can
No.
park that entire event that you're talking about at the moment, because I don't think anybody who was there when he died would have been aware of it, and I don't think it's relevant, frankly.
No, but
You
it
can
shows-
talk about
it
what
shows
happened
his-
on the day.
No, but it shows his attitude and the fact he was there
His
11 days
attitude.
before doing
and,
the same
and so,
thing.
and because
Yes.
of that, he deserved to be killed.
No. I'm just saying he wasn't just standing there as a innocent, non-engaging bystander, right? He was showing up to disrupt the agents, the border agents,
Well, he was protesting. Most would say.
protesting and attacking a police car 11 days earlier. Okay? That's an important piece of context, right?
No, well,
So if you're going to
it's not.
show up and you're going to have an altercation with agents, right? You do not show up with a loaded gun and 2 magazines of bullets. That is insane. And yes, he had a license to carry, right? He had a license for concealed carry. But like the entire thing of concealed carry is that you cannot get in altercations. Not even with law enforcement, with anyone. Because
Is
if
it-
you
is
do,
this-
you're
is
taking
this
a massive
convention?
risk.
No, right, exactly, convention. You're talking absolute nonsense, right? He was acting within the law, right? He was holding his phone. He did have a gun on him, but he was not brandishing it. It was in concealed carry, which is his right to have,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And as I understand it, the culture in Minnesota is that even liberal people might have a gun, right? So that it's not
Yeah.
even unusual there, right? So he was acting within his rights. He had a phone. He was tackled to the ground. His gun was found after
but he
they
wasn't tackled-
already had control of him. Then it
but he
was
wasn't
removed
tackled
from
to the
him,
ground
and
out
then
of
he
the
was
blue.
shot.
He wasn't tackled out of the ground out of the blue. He went up to the police officers and engaged with them. After
Yeah, I
one
don't
of the
think
police
that's
officers pushed a
necessarily the
woman.
point of contention, right?
It is the point.
The point
It
of
is the point.
contention is more that they shot him 10 times.
Because his gun misfired and went off.
No, it didn't. I've never heard
It
that,
did.
and I have been right, as with everyone else in the Western world. I have been paying fairly close attention to this, and that is the first time I'm hearing of that.
Let me double check.
His gun was
I heard that
taken
on
off.
Joe
They
Rogan.
found his gun after he was tackled, and then they took it off him, and then they shot him, and then they shot him another 9 times after
I heard that on Joe Rogan.
Okay,
They're a very
I'm
reliable
sure.
source. Oh, it spelled his name wrong. Oh dear. I will fact check that and put it over the top. Okay.
Right. So,
But do you see my point?
No, I
the,
don't.
The left are claiming that this man was totally innocent, and
I think the
just
left are claiming
was
that he didn't
murdered.
deserve to be shot when he
He
wasn't.
didn't deserve to be shot. He definitely didn't deserve to be shot. That's not what I'm saying. But you
Why are you
used the
saying
word
that?
murdered. Because you
Yes.
used the word murdered.
Well,
Yes, but he wasn't
what
murdered.
else? What else was it? What
It was a
then?
tragic. It was a tragic accident, but I can
An
understand
accident.
why
He was
they did
shot
it.
10
Yes.
times after he had been tackled to the floor.
He
and
was
was
a
not
man
posing
who
a
was
threat to
attacking
anybody.
The police. He was a man attacking the
Jesus
police who had
Christ,
a
man.
gun.
Do you right now? I would like to just return to our earlier point here, where you were saying that you empathised with people in Germany who saw what was going on before 1937, right? Because things that happened in Germany before 1937 involved the illegal killing of German citizens, right? Which is something that's now happening in America that you are trying to justify, right? I don't empathise with those people, but I can see how it happens because I'm having a
I'm not-
conversation with it right now.
It's not justifying. It's saying it wasn't murder. There's a big
It was an
difference.
accident. Oh, they didn't mean to shoot him 10 times.
Yes, they
right?
didn't mean
I
to-
mean,
they
Jesus
did not
Christ,
mean to-
I don't think
they
that
did
would stand
not
as an
mean to
argument
murder him.
if they'd shot him
Well, you'll
once,
see-
right?
you'll see
the
whenever
additional
the
9
investigation
bullets rather
finishes.
weakens the argument.
No, you'll see whenever the investigation finishes. I guarantee you the police officers will be cleared and they'll not be sentenced.
Yes, well, Trump likes pardoning people quite a lot, though, doesn't he?
No, he won't. Biden pardoned more people than all previous presidents.
Well, I can't. I don't know enough to comment on that.
I'll put
in
that up as
particular.
well. But
Well,
you can
it's-
understand.
that's neither
right?
here nor
You
there,
can
though.
understand. You can understand, right? Surely you can understand. If a man 11 days earlier was seen smashing the taillights of a car and getting in an altercation with police, and then 11 days after he gets in another altercation with police, whilst carrying a loaded gun,
They
you're
didn't
taking
know
a
that
massive risk.
before they tackled
He
him.
knew that. He knew that. It doesn't matter what the police knew. He knew that. Can you imagine starting
and
to
then
fight with police
hang
officers?
hang on. So you're
Yes.
saying that he did something stupid, and then there was an accident,
Yes.
and it's the
Yes.
accident that no one meant to do because it was an accident was justified because
Yes.
he was being stupid.
Yes.
How does that work? So
Because he had a loaded gun on him, and then he got in a fight with police. And then it's in America.
yeah, but what element of this was the accident? Like, where is the accident? How, like, because he behaved in such a way, an accident happened to him.
If you're in a fight with someone and you're a police officer, and you have a wife and kids at home, and you see a gun, and it's in a big brawl, and you think that the gun went off, because I need to check that, that's what Joe Rogan said, that might be nonsense, right? You're going to shoot back. This is America. You imagine being a police officer in America, where every single traffic stop you pull up to, you're thinking, are they going to try and kill me?
Oh my
You can,
God.
and remember the amount of protests that are happening across America against ICE agents. This wasn't an ICE agent, but you get the idea. The amount of opportunities for something like this to happen is insane. And that's one of the reasons why these protests are just being pushed so much, because they want stuff like this to happen. You know, don't.
Well, I agree
It's
with
like
that.
the woman. It's like the woman who got shot and killed, who ran over the police officer.
She didn't run
Like,
over
on
a
the
police
surface.
officer. This is right.
did.
Just to zoom out slightly, this is a very interesting point here, because the bone of contention here is not necessarily. Well, I think we do fundamentally disagree on this, and I think your view on it is beyond the realms of civilization. But we're actually disagreeing on what materially happened.
Yes. And my disagreement is it was not murder. That's it. That's the
that's
disagreement.
secondary, right? Because but in order to debate whether or not something is murder, you have to first establish what actually happened, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think me and you agree with what actually happened, even though there is explicit video evidence of it. He had his phone in his hand.
What?
He was not clearly posing a mortal threat to any police. He was tackled to the ground. Then his gun was taken off him. Then
I'm sorry.
he was shot 10 times.
Pause.
That is what
He
happened.
was not posing a mortal threat to any police. He was in a fight with them and he had a loaded gun.
He wasn't in a fight with them. He was holding his phone. This should not be debatable. There is footage of it, which I'm sure you have seen many times because everyone on the internet has seen it.
Yes,
Yet
and it looked like a fight to me.
you're disagreeing with it. You're saying no, that isn't what happened. He was fighting the police. He wasn't fighting the police. Like the strongest word you could possibly use is jostling, right? But he was holding his phone. He wasn't attacking them. You don't hold your phone if you're having a fist fight, do you? You put your phone away and get your hands out. This is not
That's
how it
fair.
works.
There's
know
a
that
nuance
what you're
there
saying
on-
is
on the
rubbish.
attack.
Your own eyes.
He got in a confrontation. He might not have thrown the first punch, but they tried to arrest him. And then he fought back, and he had a gun. And as far as I'm aware, the gun misfired. That might not be true.
Think it
Again,
did. Yeah.
well, it
you
might
just-
not have.
yeah.
I will put that up if that's not true. And then one of the police officers either heard the gun or just seen the gun, and he opened fire. And that is a tragic accident.
An
okay,
accident, which
but
again,
that is not murder.
Accident. How is it an accident?
if that
The-
police
what you're
officer-
saying, what you're suggesting there is that the deliberate actions of a particular officer, who I understand is not a police officer,
Yeah,
but is somehow an accident
border
because
enforcement dude.
it's justified. What? How is it? If he did it deliberately, which I'm sure he did, and I don't think anyone rationally disputes that, why is that an accident?
because you have to understand the position the police officers are in, where he might have been trying to kill them, and his colleagues are there.
Again, we're going to return to what actually happened. He had been tackled to the ground. He had, about 6 or 7 men on top of him before this happens, and then he's shot. He's posing no threat to them at all.
He didn't lie on the ground and just put his hands up. That is not what happened. There was clearly a struggle.
Well, and therefore it's an accident. You must see that your narrative that you're constructing makes no sense at all.
No, it makes a lot more sense than the idea that the police officer went out that day and wanted to murder someone. That is insane. That is clearly not what happened.
Well, how is it insane? We don't know anything about this individual,
But, right,
and in
okay,
fact we
we can
do
use
know
another-
things, right?
The
That
people were
suggest that the
claiming people claimed exactly the same thing 2 weeks earlier with the woman who was shot and killed. People also
yeah,
said
it's a
that
very
was murder.
similar situation.
It's not. It is a similar situation, but again, it wasn't murder. Like the guy who
Why?
shot the woman.
That was
the
an
guy
accident.
who shot.
He accidentally shot her through the side of a car window while he was allegedly being run over.
No, it wasn't
at
the side
front.
of a car window. It wasn't.
It was.
The actual
There's footage
facts.
of that.
The actual facts were that very same officer was ran over 6 months earlier, and had to get stitches for a huge gash in his legs, right? And then he was back out again, and the woman in the car accelerated towards him, hit him on the leg, hit him with his car, and he opened fire. Is that not understandable?
No, I would
What?
posit. Have you
How?
ever read 1984?
No, I tried to, but I couldn't get through it. It's too boring.
Right, so you possibly have to get through the first bit. It is a dystopian novel. It's not supposed to be a particularly exciting society, but I think. Oh, I don't even know. Christ! Just.
I'm
again,
surprised.
zoom
I'm
out.
so surprised by this conversation.
Why?
Because I'm surprised that you think that's murder. Like
How
genuinely,
is it
totally
not?
surprised by that. Because it's the situation that they were in,
Man,
and the
this
people
goes
were
back-
not innocent.
It goes back to the.
If that
They
mother,
were
if that
innocent.
woman was not,
What crime had been
No, they weren't.
committed?
because they were stupid. They were really stupid.
Oh, that's
If that
not a
woman had
crime.
if
Right,
that woman, it's not a crime.
You articulate
but it
your
means
views
that you're putting
with
yourself
such
in a
a
position.
profound lack of precision that it's almost impossible to debate with you. What crime has been committed? That is a legal question. You say they were being stupid. That's not an adequate answer, right? I ask you what policies did Hitler do before 1937 that you agree with, and you say, oh, he instilled this sense amongst the German people that these things were good and these things were bad. They aren't policies. That isn't what a policy is, right? You are just making sort of the rules of language up as you go along to justify what you believe, but in doing so, you're not allowing yourself the space to actually formulate a coherent view.
What? No, right. Let's go through this. What actually mattered to the Germans in 1930s, right? It was the rhetoric. It was the propaganda. It was the words Hitler used, the things he said, his ability to talk to his audience. It wasn't his actual detailed policies. It was the propaganda which
I'm going to
he
be
put out
straight
there.
up and say that I don't think you have the historical understanding necessary to make or back up that statement. I think you've just imagined that and you're saying it.
Right. Well, if I've imagined that, that is absolutely fine, but that is my understanding. That it was essentially propaganda, his use of media, that made sure that the German people supported him across the board. And I don't understand how that is an unusual thing to say. And also, whenever you bring it back to Alex Pretty and the lady who was killed 2 weeks earlier, okay, I don't understand how you think it's murder whenever these people put themselves in a position where they were taking a massive risk with their lives.
Right,
if you accelerate a car towards an armed police officer,
order, such as a state governed by a constitution, such things should not be putting yourself in mortal danger because the law enforcement, in whatever form they may be, are supposed to act within the law, and they didn't do that, is why legally
They have a right
murder.
to defend themselves. They have a right to defend themselves. If you're in a car and you accelerate towards an armed police officer after being told multiple times to get out of the vehicle. What do you mean? How did it not happen?
Right,
what
she
didn't
was
happen?
Shot, the wheel was turned away from the police officer that shot
The
her.
police officer
through the
who was
driver
hit.
door
The
window.
police officer. No, he didn't. The police officer who was hit by the car was not looking at the woman's wheels. That is ridiculous. He seen the woman accelerate the car towards him after he was hit with a car 6 months earlier. And he had his gun pointed at her, so of course he shot her. I would have done exactly the same thing. It's called self-defense.
That's... Oh my goodness.
The police officer with Alex Pretty,
The
the police officer with Alex Pretty got an engagement with a man who had a gun.
The police... Have you even seen the video? There's about 7 of them on top of him.
Yes, but there's one of them shot him. I'm talking about the guy who shot him.
Well, I'm not even sure we know that, but...
It's a tragic accident, but the guy did not set out to murder. I do not understand how you can't see this.
Right. Again, you are confusing, I think, murder in a legal sense, right? Which I don't know the exact criteria in America. You get the different degrees and such. One of which I'm sure he will have committed because I think they are about premeditation, right? So I'm quite sure someone in the comments can, it would be second degree murder or something. I think indisputably, right? I don't know which one it is, but it will be one of them, right? But you're saying it's not murder because I think it's okay. And that is not how the world works. You do not govern the world by your own personal whim. You have to abide by laws, right? Which is what these people were not doing, but because you agree with them, you're saying that's fine. And it isn't.
I don't think it was murder. I think it was self-defense.
Oh, Christ! You're not qualified
If
to
someone
make that
breaks
statement.
into if someone breaks into my house, right, and I kill them and I shoot them, is that murder?
Right, it's just a different situation. In some places, yes, it will be.
Both
In other places, no, it
self-defense.
won't. No, these things are not universal. Countries have their own laws, right? In some countries, that will be murder. In other countries, it won't.
Yes,
Right?
but ignore the laws. I'm talking about the general concept
it's
of
you-
murder.
Oh,
It's self-defense. I don't know why
this
you're
is the
getting
whole
so
problem, though.
stressed.
It's like I think that many of the statements you made earlier in reference to the empathy that you feel with the Germans under Nazi occupation were disingenuous, because I think if that were true and you were to look at them and say, I mean, I get it on a certain level, right? If liberalism fails, you have to fix it, which typically can be done through socialism and fascism. And I understand why some exasperated people might lean towards fascism, right? But with the benefit of hindsight, we can see that that was not the right thing to do, right? And if you see
Correct.
and you accept that, right? And you see
Yes.
that, well, you deny that there are parallels, but I think you're kidding yourself, and that there are some parallels.
No, I
being
agree there
drawn.
is some. No, I agree there is
Yes.
some.
Well,
That's
then what
fine.
you should be doing is you should be thinking very, very, very critically about those parallels, right? And you should be thinking, if this was 1930s Germany and I was a citizen then and the government was doing this and I thought it was good, maybe I would go along with that, but would that actually be the right thing to do? Right?
Yeah,
You
but
have
the
to elevate
yeah, but the
yourself above
parallels-
it and think independently.
Yeah, but-
This is what the Penguin would do. The Penguin thinks independently. The Penguin doesn't just follow
but
the
the
herd, do what
parallels-
Elon Musk says, right? The Penguin wanders
Yeah,
off
but
on his
what are
own
the
into the
parallels?
mountains.
What are the parallels? The parallels are that you're putting your country first. That's the parallel.
Well, we have
That your
talked about
people
some
matter.
explicit parallels in slogans and in the attire and
Yes,
in
but
some
that's
cases
what
the
them
gestures
slogans are
that these
saying.
people make.
That's what them slogans are saying. We'll have our home again. It's a nationalism. It's your country first, your people first.
But that was put out by
That's
the
the
Department
parallel.
of Homeland Security, which also oversees ICE, which killed citizens illegally.
It doesn't.
You see,
That's,
You
they
see
don't-
how
they
it
don't
kinda
go out
ties
to
in?
Kill citizens.
it doesn't matter. It's not in American law,
But, like, the-
right? And
the
this is,
deportations-
I'm not an expert, but you have the different degrees of murder, right? And I'm sure the distinction between two of them is that one's intent and one isn't, right? And so, therefore, in America, where we're talking about, it would be, and you could, I think, argue that it isn't murder in the sense that these people have immunity, or at least are said to have immunity, so therefore they can just do what they want. But then I think the comparison.
So then, if they have immunity, so if the guy is not convicted of murder, whether because he has immunity or whatever, then you'd be happy to say that it was not murder. So your entire basis.
No,
is
I'd be happy
on
to
the
say that the
technical
rule
legal
of law had
definition.
been completely suspended because it does fit the legal definition, but the legal definition has been cast aside in service of some perceived higher aim, which involves killing citizens.
No. The legal process will get a result, and if the result is not murder, you're happy to say that it was not murder.
Well, no, I just answered that. I
Okay,
think
so
I
then-
think if it like very obviously like it were essentially it, like if that was to happen, which I don't think it will, then yes. But if they just get immunity or a pardon or whatever, then very different thing. And I have seen
They
that
won't be
bandied around. I
convicted.
haven't. Well,
They
exactly,
won't be
but then
convicted. They won't be pardoned.
Yeah, but
So it's not murder.
I'm gonna
So
Google
that's
if,
solved.
no, it's
There's no way they could be convicted of murder, because imagine the effect on the rest of the police force. Imagine what
they're
would
not
happen.
police. They aren't police. Again,
Well, the border agents.
You're using
Border
language
agents.
very
You know what? I'm using the
imprecisely.
term. I'm using the term imprecisely. Border agents. Right? There's no way they'll be convicted.
ICE
It's just- I just-
this is from
One of the-
projectdemocracy.org. ICE agents do not have absolute
sounds
immunity
very
from
right-wing.
state persecution, which means not federal prosecution. And I understand they don't know who these people are as well, which means that they can't be prosecuted. But they can be held accountable for illegal actions while taken on duty, but it depends on whether they were acting within the bounds of
He's
their
innocent.
lawful duties. He's not, look, if you do think that, then you're suspending. You're suspending the
This
rules
is like,
of
do you know what this
civilization,
reminds me of?
frankly.
This reminds me of the bus driver that yesterday punched a guy because he stole a woman's necklace and then came back and tried to assault the bus driver, and the bus driver got fired. Like, the world has lost it. They have went mental. And this is why right-wing politics is on the rise, because people are fed up with this nonsense.
Well, they're fed up with.
Like, it is ridiculous.
I'm not going to engage with that example because I know very little about it. I think proportionality is obviously important. Stephen Miller has said to all ICE officers, you have federal immunity in conduct of
Good
your
man.
duties. So if not good man. No, it's not.
Yes.
It's just not a
I
fucking
am so
game.
that
mate.
is that matters so much. That matters
Why?
so much. Because it's strong leadership standing up for the people who are trying to enforce the law. At the end of the day, the problem here is the protesters. Okay? The people are out there, the ICE agents, the border agents, trying to deport people who have committed a crime. Why on earth is there people protesting against that? It's ridiculous.
Well, they're deporting a lot of
Totally
people who
ridiculous.
haven't done anything wrong because they have quotas to fulfill. I mean,
They're
again, it kind of
illegal
ties back to.
immigrants.
It kind of ties. Well, not all. No, they aren't all, which is the bone of contention. It sort of ties back, I feel, to your analysis of Nazi Germany, where you said that the policies are good, but it's rhetoric. This to you is rhetoric. It has
No,
little
I
or
didn't say
nothing
the
to do with what
policies were
actually
good.
happens.
Hold on. I did not say the policies were good. That is ridiculous.
You said. I'm sure you said they had some good policies.
No.
You didn't say all of them.
I
were
said.
good,
I
granted.
said. Let me just say exactly the same thing again, right? If I was a German in 1930s Germany, and I lived in a country which had abjectly failed, I would have also fallen for the propaganda. I would have wanted someone to talk about national identity, making my country great again, looking out for the German people. That
What is
is
the difference,
exactly
then?
what I said.
I've explained.
It's the same stuff.
Parallels.
It's the same stuff which I support now. It's the same rhetoric which appeals to me and I am a fan of. That is exactly the reason I
Okay,
said if I
but-
lived in Germany in 1930s, it would be really disingenuous
yeah.
of me
But you just said
to say that.
You just said that if you were in Germany, you would have fallen for it, which suggests that you don't believe in the outcome, right? But then you're saying actually, you don't think you're falling for it now.
Because
is
the
the
Nazis
question I'm trying to
because the Nazis did not make it clear their end objectives. So the people did not know where it was going. If you
completely
think that the
disagree.
90% of the Germans, if you think 90% of the German population who voted in that referendum to put Hitler in power forever thought that it was going to end up with concentration camps, the Germans are either way worse people
Right.
than we thought, or they didn't know that.
Again, the first concentration camp was in 1933.
Yes, but it's the
at Dachau,
extermination.
right?
It's the extermination, the systematic extermination I'm talking about.
Right, now, obviously it's very difficult to accurately place yourself back before the Second World War, now that we know what happened. But I read a lot of books from that period about other matters that make reference to the broader political situation in Germany. And I think it was actually extremely obvious to anyone who was concerned what was going on. And an example of that would be the Spanish Civil War, where a lot of people went and voluntarily fought against fascists in 1936 onwards, right? And they were doing that because they were seeing what was going on in Germany before 1937, which is the date you gave, and knew that it was a moral aberration that
So
they
then
were prepared to give their lives to stop.
the German people must be seriously misguided people.
Yeah, but what's the difference between this and what you're believing now.
Because the people who are in charge, the people like J.D. Vance or Donald Trump, do not have a hidden agenda to set up concentration camps. That's blatantly obvious. There is obviously comparisons because it's not like there's a million different political talking points, right? It's fairly common that you would talk about national identity and looking after your own people. It's not like there's a huge basket of options. And that's what I support now. That's what a lot of people support now. And it's the same as, it's very, very similar to Germany in 1930. So I understand why people on the left say that these people are Nazis. Oh, they're Nazis. But you're missing the huge difference that no one ever talks about. Like if you look up the definition of fascist,
which is that it hasn't happened yet. No, I think what people like Anthony
it's that they believe
Trump is fascist.
it's that they believe that every Jewish person should be exterminated, or the people from Russia and the Far East are also worthless, or the eugenics stuff about how they're a superior race. Like none of that stuff is in.
And that's nothing
modern.
like the treatment of the Somalis or Latinos or anything. That's
no,
just
they committed fraud.
The Somalis.
It's nothing to do with them being Somalis.
Somalis committed fraud, all of them, right?
Yes.
So I think another crucial thing to understand, which I'm sure you do already, about the development of the Nazis, as is in that poem, it's like they came for the da-da-da and I said nothing because I am not one, and then they came for that, and last they came for me and there was no one to speak up, right? That poem, it sort of happens gradually, right? Night of the Long Knives, where, this is obviously Godwin's Law, very
what
crude,
happened?
of course. Adolf Hitler had a purge of at least his SA, which they sort of disposed of, I think, after that. But fundamentally, he was killing people, and that was in 1934, right? So it was sort of a bit over a year, presumably, after he took power, started killing people. Looks a bit dodgy.
And has Nigel Farage started that yet?
He's not in power yet, is he? Right? And I would not have made that link. I think I was actually going for Trump. That was the point I was making.
Right, so Trump is in power. Has Trump murdered, locked up, done anything to his political opponents?
Right, well, Hitler did not personally kill all of these people. He had
has anyone killed any of the political opponents of Donald Trump?
No, they've killed citizens. Is more the point.
No, but you're not. The comparison you're trying to make. The comparison you're trying to make runs out of road, and that is exactly my point. It's ridiculous to call Donald Trump or his supporters Nazis because you're missing so much. You're picking up on the few similarities,
they're not
and then you're
Nazis.
just forgetting about the rest of it.
No.
But look, that's what loads on the left think. That is what loads on the left think.
There's a difference between fascism and Nazism, right? I like Umberto Eco's definition here.
I was called a Nazi for supporting Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, well, you probably
mental.
earned that because by saying things about Hitler. The definition of fascism is much broader than Nazism. There are lots of different flavours of fascism. You get fascism at different places on the political spectrum or whatever. I like Umberto Eco's definition, which talks about sort of eternal attributes of fascism and says that fascisms will draw from these attributes, but any one fascism will not have all of them, right? It's sort of a bit more fluid and hard to understand.
What is the definition?
Right? No, it's an essay. It's a very difficult word to describe, which is part of the difficulty here, right? And I do not think that Trump is a national socialist, right? So I think that using the word Nazi would be inaccurate, right? People like Morris Glasman in this country seem to think that what he calls the left of MAGA Square is essentially national socialist, and that they place this great importance on the workers and reindustrializing and sort of protectionism and autarky and various different things, right? And those people, I think you could more justifiably describe as national socialist, but then I'm using that in the sort of more strict economic sense, right? Because people tend to sort of equate Nazism with the Holocaust, which is obviously a bad excess, but prevents us from seeing the sort of full nature of the ideology.
If I read out a very simple definition of fascism, right? You'll see exactly.
I won't agree with
you'll see,
but you can do that.
Well, yeah, but this is from ChatGPT. It's because people won't know what that word actually means. Okay. So this is just to prove that almost all of it does not align with anyone in modern politics or the views of almost anyone in modern politics. Authoritarian leadership with no democracy. No one is calling for an end to democracy. Not once have I heard that from anyone that people are
you have
constantly calling fascists.
January the 6th, you have the whole ICE thing. It's
That is not
not
people calling for an end to democracy. Extreme nationalism, right? Now, this is probably
What
one
about-
which I
what
would
about
agree
that
with,
one?
right?
Yeah, okay.
So we'll say that's a match, okay, where people want to look out for their own country. Suppression of opposition, such as media and critics. Rivals are silenced. That is a tool of the left, not of the right. The right do not silence people.
That's
Glorifying
true.
violence or force. You could possibly say that that's
You've been
some
doing
of
that.
the ICE stuff.
Yes, you've been doing that today. Yeah.
Okay, we could say that. Rejection of liberal democracy. So no elections and checks and power are undermined. I don't think anyone's calling for that.
Yes.
Democracy is a
Slippery
big
slope.
part of the right. Us and them thinking. Again, you could probably say that's a match.
You're not doing too hot
Fair.
on this, if you don't mind me saying.
What do you mean? It's going to be a mix. That's my whole point.
It's at
You
least
get a few that
50-50.
match. Well, it's 3 to 5. State control aligned with big business. Again, I don't think that's what's happening. I don't want the state to control anything.
Well, that doesn't
So
mean
we
it
have
isn't
3
happening
matches.
in America, though. That's just because.
No,
you're
it's
now
it's-
answering
they're-
the question of
they're
whether or
not
not you're
controlling
a fascist,
big
which is
business.
not.
So we have 3
What-
out of 5. 3
They
out
were
of 5, which I would say are potentially a match. And this is what happens: is that people take these 3 and then they instantly say you're a fascist, and they
Yeah, okay,
ignore the
so-
other 5.
What we're going to do now is we're going to read the Wikipedia page for Fascism by Umberto Eco, which describes, similar to what you just read out, has 14
Okay. Oh
attributes.
goodness!
And this is just like a truncated
I'll
version.
give you a
I
thumbs
recommend,
up or a thumbs down.
I recommend anybody read the essay. It isn't very long, but this is sort of a summary. It's got a word that I don't know what it means in it. It's embarrassing.
Oh, I'll define it for you. Don't
So
worry.
right, so number 1 is the cultural tradition. Right, so this is characterized by cultural syncretism, which is apparently the combining or merging of various distinct beliefs or schools of thought, even at the risk of internal contradiction. So that means bringing together lots of different kind of identities and cultures that may be disparate, but
I
sort
don't
of
like
merging
that.
them into one.
No, I don't want that.
You're a mix of Irish and Scottish, presumably. I don't know where your ancestors are from originally.
Scottish.
Yeah, there you go. So you are that. That's what you are.
What do you mean?
So when all truth has been revealed by tradition, no new learning can occur, only further interpretation and refinement. So it sort of gives it this conservative bent, right? That's very
I don't even.
meta.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like my list a lot better.
Right, 2, rejection of modernism, which develops rationalistic development of Western culture since the Enlightenment as a descent into depravity. So it rejects the Enlightenment. Do you know what the Enlightenment is?
Again,
Okay,
yes.
we're going to be struggling here.
I can't remember.
Yeah, cult of action for action's sake, which dictates that action is of value in itself and should be taken without intellectual reflection. Arguably, you have sort of been defending this. I feel like this is almost.
Yeah, the list is nonsense. Your list is nonsense. Your list is nonsense, right?
Disagree.
Proves
Number
once again,
4.
Ollie,
Number 4.
Ollie, you're way too stuck in academia, right? You need to drop so much obsession with what people said in the past. You're allowed to have your own opinion. You're allowed to just go with it.
Wait, hang on. One of these. Has
Even
gotta
your
be...
definition of the penguin was trying to analyse it instead of just giving your own opinion.
Number 4. Disagreement is treason. Fascism devalues intellectual discourse and critical reasoning as barriers to action,
That's the left. That's the left.
as well as
We're basically
out of
defining the
fear.
left as fascist.
No, listen. I'm going to read this again.
Sorry.
Right. So you
Sorry,
just
yeah.
said that I get stuck in academia and that my description of the penguin was frivolous nonsense. Right. Number 4.
Yes.
Disagreement is treason. Fascism devalues intellectual discourse and critical reasoning as barriers to action, as well as out of fear that such analysis will expose the contradictions embodied in a syncretic faith. Syncretistic. It keeps using that word. Syncretistic faith.
Listen,
Right. So
Yeah, Ollie, you've lost everyone.
right. Right. So
These are meaningless
right.
words.
In other words, right, and
Yes.
I appreciate the slight irony. of me not
Translated
knowing
for
word
the stupid people.
syncretistic, right? This is saying, well, you must. Fascism devalues intellectual discourse. You must understand, right? So we don't like that. That's a bad thing. It's not valuable.
That's the left.
Right.
Yep.
No, it's not the left. You're not engaging with that. You're just turning it back and using it as an insult, right? I'm asking you to actually engage with the idea. You have told me that my weakness is that I refer to books and
Yes.
stuff, right? And then this says
Yes.
you like what are the characteristics of fascism, right? Well, according to this essay, it says fascism devalues intellectual discourse, which is what you're doing, and I want you to engage with that.
This is
rather
intellectual discourse. What do you mean?
Yeah, but you just said that my problem was that I was trying to make it too intellectual, right? And the reason for that is because critical reasoning is a barrier to action, which is the next line of
Yeah,
that
but
sentence.
I can say you make it too intellectual. I'm not saying don't make it intellectual. I'm not saying don't have an intellectual debate. I'm saying that you rely too much on convoluted quotes like you just read out, and it doesn't mean anything to the people listening. It just goes over
well,
people's
okay, if you like,
heads.
I'll read the rest of them and paraphrase them. So number 5 is fear of difference, which seeks to exploit differences in the form of racism and an appeal against foreigners and immigrants. Very similar to one of the points you read out. It appeals to a frustrated middle class who fear economic pressure
Yes.
and demands from lower social groups.
Yep.
It
Check
has
that.
obsession with a plot, right? So inflation of
Yeah.
and focus on an enemy threat. Xenophobia,
Muslim.
anti-Semitism, exactly, yeah. This is a very interesting one. Some of these are more interesting than others. Fascist societies rhetorically cast their enemies as at the same time too strong and too weak. Right? So just think about that for a second. And what that means is that the enemy is sort of eternal and cannot really
That could
be
be the
destroyed.
left.
There will always be the
That could
enemy.
be the
Well, it
left.
can be anything. I mean, the obvious example
Because
is
the
God
left are
saw
full
you-
of very weak men, but yet the right are obsessed with the battle.
Yes,
with
and
the
you
left.
can't, and they have
So-
all the power, don't they? You have actually successfully
Yeah.
engaged with that. That is what we're talking about here.
That-
The left
I
are very
can relate
weak
to
and
that,
must be
yeah.
crushed, but at the same time, they have a stranglehold
They have a
on us,
lot of
and
power.
we must fight them.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
that's
Now,
it.
That is, I'll give you that. That is, for being
Yes.
such weak pansy men, they've managed to accrue a lot of power.
Yes, okay.
How does
so
that work?
You're 75%
That's
of the way there,
fascinating.
but you have to now understand that that isn't actually true, and that's a fascistic mode of thinking.
It is true. Hold on. Hold on
no.
here. Hold on.
Okay,
Donald
explain
Trump
it.
is the only strong man who's wrestled back control from these left-wing nutters. No, but that is
No,
actually a good point.
Yeah, but the point of the essay is that that's like inherently wrong, whereas you're sort of going, no, the world is like that, and I'm asking you to like
The
just
world is
explore
like
that a
that.
bit more.
The world is like that. Look at the leaders of Europe.
Well,
They are
come on,
weak men.
develop it.
They're
but
weak
they're
men.
also, but they're too strong.
That's why people. Yeah, exactly. It's such a contrast. It's very confusing. They're strong because of the position they've managed to engineer for themselves. But like, if you look at like world leaders like Donald Trump, Putin, the leader of China, like they're seen as strong. They're seen
Yeah,
as
but
strong men.
it's a different organisation of society. and
Like
you
Keir
could argue
Starmer is
the
like
latter is
the
fascist.
weakest man. Keir Starmer is the weakest man
okay,
ever.
right,
How
but
did he
I
get to
think
power?
if you were
How
to
did
use
he
the,
get to power?
well, because the Tories lost an election, I would argue, democratically.
Yeah, that's
is
true, yeah.
in one word, right? But
Yeah, but it's still that is astonishing.
okay, but just
That's really
just to still stay on that point for a second, right? I mean, using the definition in here, I think you could justifiably argue that America currently, Russia and China are fascist countries on some level.
No.
No.
You
Just
can't
you,
pick
you-
one thing.
No. But
Right,
I'm not. I use the word fascist like fascism is the term he uses to describe it. So it's broader than just like a narrow moralistic insult, right?
Okay.
They all,
Right.
each will have some element of the things in this list, but not all of them, and the elements will be different.
Yes.
Right between the right, but those countries that you point out as strong are different from France and Germany and Britain, right? Which you say
Yeah.
are weak, right? So the distinction is that the fascistic countries viewed through the lens of this essay fit this characteristic of fascism, and the democratic ones don't. And then you're saying, yes, this is just how the world is, but then in doing so, you're sort of saying that actually, that's
yeah, but
because
you're attaching. This isn't the entire point. You're matching on some points, right? And then you're instantly jumping to they're fascists. It's exactly the same as Germany in 1930. I agree with some of the points, that does not make me a Nazi. Like
No,
you see,
and-
like it's not. You can't pick and choose and get 3 out of 8 and then say, oh, they're a fascist.
Well, no. I think he does. He does say
It's
that.
like me calling you a communist. It's like me calling you a communist,
Well,
right?
I'm not
if I
a
went through a
communist in
list,
any sense,
some,
so it's-
yes, you're
it's
not.
not that.
You're not a communist at all. But there's
No,
some
it's not.
stuff. If I got a list, you'd agree with.
It's not an adequate comparison. He does say at the beginning that just having a few of these attributes doesn't make you a fascist, but it's like a sense, and there's a bit of interpretation is required. But I mean, I'm glad that you recognise that. I'm not sure you're fully
Do
engaging.
you want
with
me to read
the
out some? Do
ramifications of
you want
it.
me to read out some points of a communist,
No.
and we can see if you agree with any of them?
Well, we could do
Or
that
will you be
afterwards,
honest,
maybe.
or will you just
We're
lie?
only halfway through this list, man, and we're really having fun. You really loved that last one.
Yeah.
Pacifism
That was
is
good.
trafficking with the enemy, which he means there must always be an enemy to fight. You must have.
No, don't agree with that.
Well, no. I'm not saying whether or not you agree with it. I'm asking more if you think it's representative of Trump's America, essentially. Right, which
No. He is the peace president. He's going to get the Nobel Peace Prize. So how can it always rely on an enemy? That's literally with the West with Russia. That is literally Europe with Russia. That's obvious.
Man.
How are you confused by that? How does Trump want an enemy
No,
to fight?
I'm not confused by that. Well, he threatened to invade Greenland and Canada, and he's given Israel quite a lot of money.
That's negotiating.
Isn't it?
He
There's
got
also
a
lots of
peace deal
ships on
with
the coast of Iran
Palestine.
at the moment. I think there's lots of ships near Iran.
Yes, he's stopping Iran getting nuclear
he's
weapons,
stopping-
but he did not engage in a protracted conflict.
Okay,
he literally
okay,
blew
okay,
up their
okay.
facilities and it was over.
So there is no eternal enemy there. Number 10 is contempt for the weak, which I almost need not elaborate on. Number 11 is everybody is educated to become a hero, which leads to the embrace of the cult of death. The
Okay,
Earth
you lost
fascist
me.
hero is impatient to die.
Skip them ones. Just, Alex,
In
do
his-
yourself a favour. Just skip. Just
Listen to
skip
this.
things
Listen
like
to
that.
this. Listen to no.
Right.
Ice, right? Ice. This is
Yeah.
another, I think,
Yeah.
applicable one.
Okay.
Right. So
He's made one good point.
it's
so
about
far.
heroic action, right? Everybody's educated to become a hero, which leads to the embrace of the cult of death, right? That sounds kind of weird, but right, the actual quote lifted from the essay here is the Earth fascist hero is impatient to die. Seems kind of strange, right? But it's in this heroic action. He's defending the homeland, all this kind of stuff. In his impatience, he more frequently sends other people to death.
That is not Ice Agents. At all.
No, right? Okay, so next point, 12, machismo, which... God, this is using fancy words. Machismo, which sublimates... There's not an N in that. Sublimates the difficult work of permanent war and heroism into the sexual sphere. Fascists thus hold disdain for both women and... Sorry, I'm speaking very badly. Disdain
Translate
for
it.
women and intolerance and condemnation of non-standard sexual habits from chastity to homosexuality. You used the word gay disparagingly earlier, but as well as that, it's this masculine thing, right? The Ice Agents, it's like a manly thing.
Yeah, but
and
what
a lot of them are
what
kind
did it
of
say about women? What did it say about women?
disdain for women and intolerance and condemnation of
Yeah.
non-sexual habits. So just disdain.
That
I
is
don't like-
clear. Yeah,
don't
but
like
that's
women.
clearly not accurate of like anyone who is a Christian or on the right.
Right, I'm sure there are examples of it.
Okay, there probably is some examples, generalizing,
Selective populism. Another interesting one by the looks of it. The people conceived monolithically will have a common will, distinct from and superior to the viewpoint of any individual, right? Which is that the people want this, just the people, right? And some people might not, but they're not the people, right? This, you follow? We're fighting
not
for
really,
the interests
but-
of the people as a cohesive whole, which is kind of an imagined concept that you just lump all
but Trump
people
does not
together.
do that.
And
Trump looks after his own.
14, and the last one is Newspeak, which I think is probably lifted from 1984, unless this predates it, which it may do. But fascism employs and promotes an impoverished vocabulary in order to limit critical reasoning, which is what you do when you deliberately mispronounce things. Underneath one of these, and I'm not sure which it will be, but when I read it, I thought the most sort of poignant one is that it's incoherent. It doesn't work together. Which is possibly the cultural tradition thing where they smoosh everything together, but it it doesn't make internal sense. It's like an irrational ideology, and they have to
So
justify
you got
that
one.
by-
You got one good point, but I'll give you it. It was a good point. I have never.
Well,
thought
I
of it
think I
more.
probably got a few good points, but I fear that you're not. I must just recommend you to read the essay yourself.
I will
Several
never
times.
read that. That is just
No,
nonsense.
exactly,
That is nonsense.
because of the rejection of modernism and your devaluation of intellectual discourse and critical reasoning, because it's a barrier to action. I'm just reading the essay at you to explain why you're not
Oh
prepared to
my
read
goodness.
it. Right?
No.
But I don't know. I think it's good that you sort of identify these.
I'm
At
very
the same
right.
time,
I've
too
heard this
strong,
right.
too weak
Right.
thing. But
Here's
I don't
something
think
I've heard.
you're not internalizing why it's bad. You're not taking it that.
Here's a
extra
lot
step.
of people have said. A lot of people have said this to me about our podcast. Right. A lot of people say I am far too quick to agree with you on things, and that you agree with nothing. Right. And they say that you're wasting your time. It's impossible. He never agrees with anything. Okay. And my retort, I've heard this multiple times. My retort is, I go out of my way to agree with you if there's something which I think, you know what, that was a good point. Okay? And I think this is a big problem with people on your side of politics, is that they never give ground on anything. They never ever do. And it's something which I think I've almost came to the conclusion, right, that it's pointless trying to reason with someone on the left, which I know a lot of people have come to the same conclusion long before me, but I genuinely thought it was possible.
It's not
I
reason.
did think it was.
Though, is it? You don't mean quite what you're saying there.
What do you mean? What do I not mean?
Well, I mean, obviously we have sort of different educational backgrounds, but over the course of my life in education, I have formulated through study and experience a broader philosophical political framework, an ideology,
Yeah.
broader than
Yeah.
any one issue that we discuss, right? So, in order to challenge
Yes, this is
that-
exactly what I mean. This is
yeah,
exactly what I mean.
yes,
It's
but
the ideology.
the problem is ideology. Oh man, but you really do need to understand this essay. It's very, very important for exactly this reason. The problem is ideology. The problem is not ideology. We discussed this last week, I'm sure.
I'm not saying it's a
right?
problem. I'm not saying it's a problem. All right? I'm just saying you have an ideology.
But what reason are you even trying to get across to me today? Like, what are you telling me that I'm wrong?
No, I'm
for
just saying. I'm just saying. Like, if we talk about like the Alex Pretty thing or whatever, and like, or even like the list of fascist things, and I'm saying, you know what? I think you're right. I think that could apply to the right in modern worlds, because it does. It just does, right? But if I had like a really strict ideology, I don't think I'd agree with that. I'd be like, no, it doesn't. It's not. It doesn't.
But you
So
have.
I feel.
Oh man, come on! The viewer will see that throughout the course of this conversation, you have denied lots of things that you either must.
What have I
and I'm
denied?
putting some faith in your own intelligence here. You must know to be
Okay.
true. Well, you've given a very
What have I denied
selective.
What have I
Understand?
denied
You've given
that I
it
must
like,
know to be
for
true?
example, a selective narrative of the Alex Pretty killing. You've denied that. You said that Elon Musk's
Whoa,
Nazi
whoa, whoa.
salute was just normal. All this kind of stuff,
Right, right. Stop. Pause. How do I know that it must be true that Elon Musk deliberately done a Nazi salute?
I think it's beyond reasonable doubt.
It's no. Oh my goodness! Literally, there's a video of Kamala Harris doing exactly the same action, frame for frame.
No, she's waving. It's not the same.
I'll put up the clip. I'll put up the clip. It is identical.
No one actually believes that. Do you think Kamala Harris is a fascist?
This is exactly
No, you don't.
what I
You don't
mean.
think that. You're being facetious.
No, I don't. Not at all. I don't at all think she is. Just like I don't think Elon Musk is.
Well, why then?
But
Why
you're-
then
you're
would she
totally-
do the same action?
You're totally certain. You're totally certain. 1,000% sure that you can see into Elon Musk's mind and that he done that deliberately. This is a great example of what I mean.
Well, reasonable doubt. I
At
think.
some point-
for example,
at some
don't
point-
accidentally
at some
make
point-
such movements.
At some point, you have to just say, you know what? Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But there's no willingness to like
you
move
don't
an
have to do
inch. it's even the Alex Pretty stuff, right? Like, I'm put out a pretty reasonable case that he got himself in a very dangerous situation and that it was an accident.
No, you
but you
didn't.
still stuck to... Did I not? Okay.
You did, I don't think you did put forward a reasonable case, to be completely honest. I think you have swallowed a lot of the narrative being put out by the federal American
What's the narrative?
administration.
But what's the narrative? Like, there's
Well, I mean, I'd have to
videos
Google
of him
quotes, but-
attacking a police car
Oh, we've already
11
discussed
days
that.
before.
Yeah, but that's not the same event, is it? Come on now.
No, but
Um,
it's setting the context.
I'm Googling what the
It's
administration
very
said.
interesting. Right, final topic. This is a long podcast.
Oh,
Tories going to reform.
no, we don't have to do that. We don't have to do that.
We can leave that for our serious talk.
Well, I don't think that.
This was much more serious than I expected.
Well, I think
Who knew
I,
a penguin would get us to here?
It's
It's
don't know,
very,
man.
it's very interesting. It's very interesting.
What? Why is it? I don't understand.
I
The thing that fascinates me actually, as I
yeah.
have had to engage with people who think like you do, is that you are all, well, in many ways, these attributes that I listed that are in this Umberto Eco book, you all sort of play the same rules, in the way that you engage with other people, but the rules are also unspoken, and I think it's very interesting that you all seem to pick them up. So, like, if you say something that's on the edge of what's acceptable, you say this is a common sense view, right? So you're trying to pull the whole window of what can be said to try and get that thing more in the centre, even though it's on the extreme, right? But if you say
what's on the edge? No, what's on the edge of saying what's on
well, in
the edge of being
the first
acceptable?
episode of this podcast, you introduced yourself as being centre right, and then I think in the third, I said, give me an example of someone further right than you, and you couldn't do that. So you're not centre right.
Yeah.
You're claiming that you're centre right in order to appear reasonable, right? That's the first thing. The thing that you will do if something you want to say is just completely outside of what's reasonable is you will sort of say it as
but
a
you
joke,
said,
right?
but wait, stop. You said I said something that was on the edge of what is acceptable, right? I literally just made a statement, and it was half a joke, half true, that I can't think of a political party in the UK which is to the right of me.
No,
That is
I'm
not
giving.
on the edge
I'm
of what
giving.
is
No,
acceptable.
right, no. But I think you could argue that. Just in a broad sense, I'm just illustrating
I said
a
that's
use
on
of
the
that
edge
tactic.
of what's acceptable?
Right. The point being is that you have put yourself on an extreme of the political spectrum. Yes. On
No,
the,
I haven't.
Right.
No, I
but I mean,
haven't.
not in a moralistic sense. Just on the extreme, in that there is no one to the right of you. You have put yourself on the extreme right of the
In
political
the main
spectrum.
political parties, that could
But
be true.
But then you have said, but I'm centre right. I'm a moderate kind of. I'm towards.
Yeah,
the
but
middle,
I do
right?
think. But let me define. But let me explain. Right, Reform and the Conservatives and the DUP and the UUP and the TUV. Right, they are where centre-right politics was 30 or 40 years ago.
No, they're not. That's just complete nonsense. One Nation Toryism used to be a thing, and One Nation Toryism, I would argue, is more left-wing than the Labour Party are now because they've been swallowed up by neoliberals.
On our little test of where I align, I was basically bang on reform. What is the far-right views of reform?
No, right.
By your definition
I'm
of
not.
far-right.
No. You're missing the point I'm making slightly. Right. The point is not about where any of these things are in and of themselves. Right. The point is just that you have placed yourself on, like, there is a spectrum between the Greens and Reform.
Yeah.
And you've said I am on the right extremity of that spectrum. Yes. And you
Yeah, but
have
I'm
also
not-
said
I'm not- Yep.
I am centre right. Yeah, and those are two
Yes.
statements that are conflicting, right? And actually, you are, I think it's reasonable to say, on the right extremity of that spectrum, right? So in saying that
Yeah,
you're
but I'm
centre
not
right,
far.
the tactic,
But
the tactic.
But I am not far right.
No, I haven't.
I'm
right,
not far right.
Okay,
No,
to
but
be completely honest,
that's
I'm
why I
not
said
sure I
that.
would agree with that. But right,
Right,
that
but
isn't the point I'm making here. The point I'm making is that you're trying to make out that being here is actually you're actually here, and everyone there is really far away, right? That's the tactic.
In
that
reality,
you all do.
in reality, I am centre right. Okay, maybe to the right of centre right. Right.
He's done it again.
And when in episode 3, people can go back and listen to it. I made a joke that I was far right because that's what people believe me to be.
again,
I have
and
never
and
once said I am far right.
the second point that I did briefly make, but was going to go on and make again, is that the other tactic is that, it's a joke, right? If Maurice Glasman wants to invade France, he goes, we'll invade France, right? And if someone pulls him up, he goes, well, it's a joke. You can say it because it's a joke, you see?
Yes.
And you're smiling because you
That is-
recognise that. This is how they do it,
That
right?
is, yes, that is.
I've-
I do that all the time with so much stuff, all the time, because you got to entertain people.
No, that isn't what it is, and you know
And
that's
it's
not what
funny.
it is. Which
Trump
is why
does
you
that
just
all the
smiled.
time too.
Yeah, okay.
Trump does that all the time too.
He
He says
I
ridiculous
think,
things as a joke.
a tendency to conflate literal statements with moralistic statements, right? So if you're to, let's say that I said that sort of behaviour is a symptomatic of fascism in Umberto Eco's definition, which I think it is. I think it would fit underneath the sort of anti-intellectualism stuff and this, that, the other, right? But Trump does it, right? You say, oh no, but I like Trump. It's kind of your line. But that doesn't... You're trying to reject the label because you think that it's kind of like insulting, or you just don't like how it feels if it's applied to you. But intellectually, that isn't a defence.
I don't think it's.
Well, neither does
insulting at all.
he, clearly. I mean, did you seen with Mamdani in the Oval Office?
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually
but
some pretty
it's
solid
not-
evidence that I should have brought up earlier.
Well, evidence of what? That he's a fascist?
Well, when Mamdani's with him, you must have seen this, and the reporter says, well,
Yeah, I
Mamdani,
did.
you've called him a fascist, and he's like, oh, it's okay, I don't mind.
Yeah,
And
because
so-
that's funny. That's called a joke.
Oh,
But
this
people
is
take
exactly...
it. People like you take it seriously.
Right, the point I've just made...
Oh my goodness, Trump's a fascist. Oh my goodness, this is
The point
crazy.
I'm trying to make is that they
Yep.
take things that are not acceptable to say and go, well, we can
What's
say that
not
because it's a
acceptable
joke.
to say?
Right,
What's
well,
not
just
acceptable
openly
to say?
admitting that you're a fascist and then putting an absurd amount of money into
Trump
unaccountable...
did not
untrained-
openly.
No,
This
you're not.
Trump
Listen.
did not openly
Oh,
admit he was
Christ,
a
man.
fascist.
But he did.
Radical left-wing mayor.
But it
No,
was
he
a
didn't.
joke.
The radical
Do you not
left-wing-
understand how that
No,
works?
he didn't. Oh my goodness! The radical left-wing mayor of New York had called
He's
Trump
not a radical
fascist.
left-wing mayor. He's a social democrat. And
Right. Okay.
That's not the same
This is what
thing.
we're going to. This is the bit where I agree, whereas you never would. Okay. That's fine. He's not a radical left
No,
wing mayor.
no, 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 no,
The social
no, no, no,
democratic
no.
mayor.
Again, this is another
Let me
thing you have
finish
to
this.
understand. You were just wrong then. That
But
wasn't
you're
you
wrong
giving me a
tons
bit
of
of
times.
leeway.
But that doesn't
right?
matter.
You said something that isn't true. I
Let's see
corrected
if you
you, and
admit.
then you were like,
Let's
"Oh,
see
I
if
gave
you
you an
admit you're
inch."
wrong here. Let's see if you admit you're wrong here. The social democratic mayor of New York had called Trump a fascist in an interview a few days before. He was in the Oval Office with Trump, and a journalism mentioned it and asked him, "Do you still think Trump is a fascist?" And Trump turned to him and diffused the very awkward situation by saying, "It's okay, you can just say it," right? He done that out of compassion and to avoid him having this awful situation. And he made light of the situation so that it was passed over without incident.
So it's
It
like
was
I
not
get.
Trump
So in
admitting-
that very creative reading of what happened,
That is
was-
exactly what happened. Was that
you
Trump
could argue
admitting he was a
that-
fascist?
You could argue that what Trump was doing was suicidal empathy in a way, couldn't you? Because he.
No, because it was funny. No one cared, apart from people on the left who then were like, "Oh my goodness, he admitted he was a fascist." No, he did not admit he was a fascist. It's insane to come to that conclusion. Can you accept that that is insane to come to that
I'm
conclusion?
not. You see, you're just not quite engaging with what I'm trying to get you to engage with enough. You're nearly there, but you're just not quite thinking about it, right? The point I'm trying to make is that you can say things that are crazy, right? But it's a joke, so it's okay. And that's the line you're now taking.
What
You're
did-
going,
what
no,
did
but it's a
Trump
joke,
say
it's
that
a
was
joke, it's a
crazy?
joke.
What did Trump say that was crazy in
Oh,
that
but
situation?
he very nearly explicitly said that he himself was a fascist, and did say that he was fine.
He said to the mayor,
for-
he said to the guy who had called him a fascist, "It's okay, you can say it."
Yeah, but he's fine with that. He's
I
fine.
made
He
the joke-
doesn't object to the label. And you're saying it's a joke,
he
and I would
made a
argue
joke
that it
about
actually
it.
wasn't a joke. It's again a joke like on Top Gear, right? Stuart Lee was
Yeah, but
saying.
that's-
it's a joke. But you mean it.
Your opinion might be that Trump was like, "Oh, here's an opportunity for me to admit that I'm a fascist," but that is clearly not what happened. And anyone with any common sense can see he made the joke to diffuse the situation so it wasn't really awkward.
I don't think
It
anyone
was actually...
has... Well,
How can you not see
maybe
that?
from a hit
It's
in
clearly...
his head that is what happened, but it also reveals that he doesn't object to the label, which then has
it's
other
because he is
implications.
a decent, kind person.
Oh,
And
I
to
don't
let
think
the guy
anyone
out of a
thinks
really
that.
awkward situation... This is the thing as well, right? Trump would get on with anyone. He genuinely would. And
He
people
doesn't
can...
like
people can
doesn't like people with beards.
Does he?
No, he doesn't. Well,
My
no, I
point
mean
is-
that's just an example. But what you're saying, you're imagining his character, right? I'm going to flick through this list again to find the one that's.
My point
applicable
is,
to.
I genuinely don't think Trump would fall out with anyone. Like, I think he is a very kind individual. And that is
Have you
a
not seen
marker
the sort
of
of
the
stuff he
right.
posts on social media?
Yeah, but it doesn't
seriously.
last. It's like the Elon Musk stuff. It's like Elon Musk, right?
Oh,
he had this
genuinely,
he had this spat. He had this spat with Elon Musk. The two of them fell out, and then they're best buds again. It's the ability to forgive, the ability to forgive and move on, right? And the left just doesn't have that. They don't have that. And it was the same with that joke about, okay, it's okay, you can just call me a fascist, right? He's got compassion for other people. It's his best attribute. He's a great man.
I
Great
think you
man.
live in a dream. I mean, to be completely honest, I think after this conversation, this is probably going to be the last episode of this because I can't argue with that, and I know you think you can't argue with me, but we're just operating on completely different planes. Like, this list explains exactly how you're operating, and I'm trying to point out to you the sort of not even rhetorical or intellectual, but just like the kind of like crude, blunt tools that you use to corral conversation, and then you, in response, you use them. Like, I'm trying to point out that things that are not really okay can be justified with a joke, and then you say, "Oh yeah, but that was a joke." Yes, I know it is. That's
But
what I'm trying to get you to engage with.
Okay, right. Let's engage. Right. You've said this multiple times. Things I have said which are not okay, which I then make a joke. But you've not yet given me an example. What is
No,
not
I'm
acceptable?
not trying. No,
or on
right,
the
the
edge
point
of
is,
acceptable?
you keep making it about yourself, and I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about like the right in general.
who are you talking
This
about?
this is how the
Right,
sort of
okay.
like populist. Like I see it when I have to argue with farmers in WhatsApp group chats.
But
right?
you did say it was about me. You said that me, say things which are on the edge of what is acceptable.
No,
and
well,
then
I mean
make a
you
joke
do
out
it
of
as well.
But what have I said?
Well, no.
This is exactly the same as the Elon Musk thing. This is the same as the Elon Musk thing. You said he had all these quotes, and then you couldn't find any.
And what we're going to say here is that we discussed this last time, and came to a conclusion on it. And I can't remember what example I gave then, but the point I'm trying to make is not. It is in a broader sense just about sort of. I can't even call it a rhetorical device, but you're saying, yeah, but that Trump did that. It was a joke. You see, you're recognizing that this is a way that things
but
are done.
we talked through your example with Trump, and he clearly said it as a joke.
Yeah,
And like
exactly.
you said that I said, but you got to give examples of what you're saying.
No, I have Morris
you know.
Glassman, who is someone who leads your thought circle, who you haven't
Well,
even heard of because you do no research.
Yeah,
into
we
the
need to
things
do
that
like
you
a bingo
consume.
chart every time you
Right.
mention Morris Glassman.
Yeah, but because he's really important, right? I mean, he gets mentioned on the
Yeah.
Liz Truss podcast, which I listen to, right? I know you think the left don't ever fucking engage with anything.
Well, that's good.
Right? I engage
That's good.
with the sort of thought that you are led by, right? Much more than you do.
No, I'm not. I don't
apparently.
listen to it because I think it's a waste of time. I'm not led by Liz
Well, do you think that
Truss.
you think that Liz Truss is a? Well, that's something that you said then as a joke. You told me that Liz Truss is your like political idol. You think she was great and you want her back. You told
She
me that.
was. No, she was. I was a big fan of her, but
Was that-
her podcast isn't saying.
Yeah, but when you say you want her back, is that a joke? You definitely said that.
If she was stood for reform, I'd probably still be happy. But I do think she's kind of let herself down recently. Yeah, I'm less of a fan.
Okay. Anyway, point. And just another example of that happening again, as I've already said today, is Morris Glassman saying that he wants to invade France. You know, it's like you just say things that are like so far outside the realm of possibility, and you also see like stuff like Nick Fuentes. I mean, like the line from JD Vance after Alex Pretty was shot was that it was a sort of tragedy, or in the other example, Rennie Good, whatever her name was, it was a tragedy of her own making, right? This sort of guys, right? Whereas Nick Fuentes comes out, and I'm paraphrasing, right? But he says, good, that this happened, right? So he says something that's like seems whoa, like that's a really strong, horrible thing. I can't believe he'd say that. And then you look to what JD Vance says, which is also, I just in normal times completely outside the realms of what is reasonable, but in comparison, it seems a bit better, kind of thing, right? And it's like that.
Wait,
but then,
wait,
but the thing that's really far out can be a joke. You see, you can say, let's invade
But
France. Let's invade France.
Nick Fuentes probably wasn't joking. He's totally
No,
insane.
I'm sure, okay. Well, I'm sure. No, I'm sure he wasn't joking. But I'm explaining how
But
different
JD Vance,
ideas relative
JD
to
Vance,
each other can pull the Overton
JD Vance
window. But the
basically
most
said-
extreme thing could be a joke.
But JD Vance did not say anything extreme. He basically said what I said.
Yeah, but you're both
was that they
wrong,
put
and I think
themselves in
actually,
really
I think in it isn't an extreme interpretation of how the state should interact with its citizens. Frankly, I think that is extreme. Just because you agree with it doesn't mean that it's not extreme.
Well, I think this has been our best episode. I'm
Well, I don't,
surprised you think this
and
is bad.
well, because you're not. You know,
I
I'm
I've
pretty tired
engaged with
today, right? So
everything.
my mind has not been as sharp as it could perhaps have been.
We'll get him convinced to come back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry. Don't worry. Listen, I
But-
think you've been great.
You have fundamentally said that you empathise with the people in Nazi Germany, right? And then
No,
you're not.
You
Well, you did.
that is exactly the. No, I've said this like 4 times now, okay? I said that a lot of what I believe now, right? I'm literally giving you your talking point for you. A lot of what I agree with now, I have the ability to realise that it aligns with what people were feeling and thought in the early Nazi regime of Germany. That is literally
Yes,
the
but
exact
okay,
point
right,
I
but
was
then what
making.
you have to do is you have to be thinking really, really critically about how you don't let it go any
Where
further
that
down
leads.
that line,
Where
which
that
is not what
leads,
you're
yes.
doing. I think you're doing quite the opposite.
No, that we've been through this, okay? The points do not align. There's like 3 out of 8 of the fascist points align, and there is nothing happening which aligns past that. And this is why people are labeling people like Donald Trump or Nigel Farage or me in some cases Nazis, because they see a few things which align, and then they jump to the conclusion. That was the entire
Well,
point
no,
I
I
was
wouldn't.
making.
I wouldn't use the word
So
Nazi.
you were saying that I
because it's imprecise.
empathised. I suppose you could say I empathise in a way,
you-
because I
you
agree
did
on
say
certain
that.
points.
Yeah,
that's fair, that's fair.
Empathy
But-
doesn't necessarily mean you must agree. It just means you can sort of sympathise.
Okay.
You
Well,
can see
just
why
to
they
clarify,
would. Right. You,
just to
well, no,
cla-
I mean,
could see
I
why
think,
they would.
well, those are
It's
my
a dangerous
words. I'm not
topic,
sure
so I
you
need
would
to
use
be.
those
I
if
need to
hadn't
provide
have,
clarity.
Pushed you to it. But I think you're hiding in that a complete unwillingness to take the necessary steps to avoid such tragedy happening again.
To avoid
To be
what?
honest.
There is nothing going to happen
How do
because
you know
no
that?
one on the right supports. Because no one on the right supports any of that stuff. No one on the right is an evil, self-obsessed person. They're
They've
kind
already
people.
shot 2 citizens.
Oh my goodness!
Like, this is how it starts,
But-
man. I hate to break it to you, but they don't start by
You
killing 16
you're
million
talk-
people.
you're
they
talking
they
about
start with
this
a
like-
few. Right, I'm
you're
not saying that
talking
that
about
is
this
going to
like
happen, right? But the point is that people like you, if you want to put yourself in that camp, right, need to
Yeah.
stop it. Right? And you're not
But we
doing
do-
that.
but
You're
we
going,
fun-
oh, actually,
but
no,
we
those people deserved it.
fundamentally-
It was an accident. They shouldn't have been doing what they were doing.
They didn't. They didn't deserve it. Like this is the. Why do you keep jumping?
No,
to
but there's no.
words
You're
tonight?
putting absolutely no culpability on the state because you say it's an accident.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Yeah, so the state shouldn't apologise. The state doesn't need
If
to change
the people,
anything. They can continue.
but if the guy was unarmed, he didn't have a gun, right? Definitely police officer's fault, right? Why would you shoot a man if you outnumber him and he doesn't have a gun?
I actually think
If the woman in the car-
Actually, no. On that point, he didn't have a gun when he was shot because it had already been taken off him. So
Yeah, you know what I mean. If he showed up
No,
there
I don't.
with a gun,
I don't know what you
it was
mean.
in his hand when he was shot. The gun was in
No,
his
it
hand when he
wasn't.
was
You're
shot.
lying. I mean, for fuck's sake, right?
Right.
I
If
cannot
that's wrong, Joe
do
Rogan's
this. Right? He did
Joe
not
Rogan-
have a
right,
gun in
look,
his
I can
hand.
check.
He had a phone in his hand. Right? I cannot be expected to rationally
When he-
debate
when-
somebody who just
When he-
makes stuff
I'm
up.
Not, whoa, I'm not.
It's just
that was
not
my
true.
understanding. That was my understanding. I just said if I was wrong, I'm wrong.
Then you need to change the sources from which you are getting your information, because they are lying to you and making you believe things that are extremely unpleasant.
Guess what? I've said that like 3 or 4 times. I've said it might have been wrong at every single point.
But then again,
You're trying to jump on
another
me
defence, though,
as if. What do you mean it's another defence? It's me admitting I'm not certain. It's not a defence.
I don't know. It's just...
What an overreaction to me happily multiple times saying that's what I heard. That might not be true. Being extremely clear about it. This is the woman in the car. Another great example. If she hadn't have accelerated towards the police officer, she wouldn't have been shot.
That's just fucking... We've already
it's not the same as being...
I can't be bothered to cover it again.
Okay.
I hope that in the next week you think about why the immunity given to these people and the line you have taken morally and legally,
this confuses me so much.
Becomes problematic. But this is the thing. I mean,
this confuses me so much. Like, we genuinely just can't. My brain can't understand how you don't see that these people have responsibility for what happened to them because of the positions they put themselves in and the decisions they made. It blows my mind. It's very interesting, though.
You're selectively applying a narrative just as and when you feel it fits, which is one of the things on this list, but I can't remember which one it is.
What? Right, we might as well. Why? Like, you can't say statements and then not back it up. Well, how am I selectively applying a narrative?
Because I don't think the idea that a person is... No, because you can't universalise it, right? This is like, if you're trying to make a kind of moral statement about intent and blame, like you have to be able to universalise it. And saying that those two people behaving the way they did deserved it is to say that all people that
No, I didn't say no. This is no. I didn't say they deserve it. I said they put themselves in a position, a really stupid position, where their lives were in danger. I don't understand how you can't accept that. Accelerate towards a police officer when he's got a gun pointed at you. Bad decision.
That's a creative description.
Get into an altercation. No, it's exactly what happened. Get into an altercation with a bunch of police officers when you're armed. Also, really dangerous situation.
Well,
it's not controversial, and it's not me saying they deserved it. It's me saying they made mistakes as well. It was a tragic accident.
Well, yes, there we go. And the people that killed them are not morally responsible. That's what you're saying.
I don't believe they are.
What can you do?
But that's okay. We're allowed to disagree. And on that,
one last question.
Yes, absolutely.
What would Jesus think about this?
He would forgive them.
That's quite a good answer, actually. But no, that wasn't that. That was quite good.
That was too easy. That was much tougher questions.
That was quite a good answer.
No,
I'm not sure.
No, listen.
More seriously, what do you think he would make of it?
I don't know, honestly, but I don't think he would demand that the police officers in that situation was punished. I think it's clearly a genuine accident. They didn't go out with any malice or intent, and it is what's in your heart that matters, I suppose. So,
right.
I think the result we'll get would be the result that is necessary.
Of course, Jesus himself was killed for being insolent,
and he forgive the people,
authority.
And he forgive the people that done it. He said, "You know not what to do. I forgive you for it." Imagine that.
Within that statement is the suggestion that it's not a good thing, right? Because they don't know how bad it is, and it requires forgiveness. Whereas you're saying they're absolved of moral responsibility because it's an accident.
Yeah, it's the same thing. They were following orders. They were following orders. When
Following
they put him to
orders.
death.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I mean, that's what. What do you mean? I'm saying about what happened whenever Jesus was killed. It wasn't them
were following
soldiers that.
Okay. Following orders. All right. Well,
Maybe we should
I
do
guess
a topic on religion.
I'm
You'd
not
love
sure. I learned anything from that.
that. I thought I learned a
I
lot.
did.
Listen, that why are weak men in power? But they have so much power. That was brilliant.
Yeah, but you okay. Your homework is you've
Yes.
got to think about the fact that that's bad. Like this essay isn't trying to explain the world; it's trying to explain fascist governments, right? So when you say, "Oh yes, the world is like that," no, you're slightly missing the point. It's not.
I
The
got
world
very
doesn't have to
excited.
be like
That's
that. And
Yes, it
indeed
needs to be
should not be
changed.
like that.
Yes, Ollie.
No,
we can get
you're-
them weak European
you're
leaders out through
What's
strength.
happening here is that you're just getting very excited about a fascistic mode of thinking, which is the thing that I'm asking you to think about. But, if you do that, I will be impressed, and you will redeem some credit in my mind. Otherwise, maybe
That means we
it's
have another
irredeemable.
episode, ladies and gentlemen. He's committed.
Well,
you get very
I
stressed
don't
by
know.
this, Ollie, but I feel like after a few days you mellow out again, and then you're fine. And it's been great. It's been very entertaining. I look forward to listening back to this. It's going to be a nightmare to edit.
You see,
Actually,
I
think of only
I
one
do
bit to
think
edit.
actually that because you're not the first person I have dealt with who has seen some. I'm trying to choose my words very carefully here. Like
There's something good.
sort of possibly commendable elements of the 1930s German model of government. And they used to get very confused when I was at school.
You've done it again. I'll just let
And
it go
they-
this time. Continue.
And they would be like, why, well, they used to joke about the
Commendable elements
Holocaust a
of the
lot in my philosophy class at A level, and I just think it was very funny. And one of them, eventually, he was like a good little Christian boy, was like, "Why are you upset? You're not a Jew." And it's like, yeah, but I would like
what
to.
sort of...
I would like to think that I'd
That's
be a
an-
political dissenter kind of thing, but it's very difficult to. My point is that I often get crap for opposing these things and have done before, but I think that also at its most fundamental, fascistic modes of thinking are very human, and that as people we like powerful stories, and I think fascism is a story that subordinates reality to it. Which we all do to an extent, but it's when the story gets taken to an extreme and you really do start to bend reality to suit the story. So it is an interesting thing to think about and
Fascinating.
engage with. You're not. I don't even think
Fascinating.
you're listening to what I'm saying now, but it's a
No,
very
I
human
zoned
thing.
out, yeah. It's the I'm just confused how you still think that fascism really is a mainstream political thing. I just can't understand that.
It's happened before, and it happened before when people were in charge, and
It'll
people
not-
are still in charge now.
Yeah. Well, no, it's been very entertaining. Thank you all
Well,
very much for listening.
I guess
hope
the
Ollie
comments will be
recovers
interesting
In time
Yeah.
for next week. I must do a wee TikTok to promote this episode because it's a real good one. I enjoyed that. Ollie clearly
Also,
enjoyed
I'd
that
just
as
like to
well.
say to the listener, if you listen to
Yep.
this the whole way through, you are a deeply strange individual.
I 100% agree with that. See you
No,
next week.
I mean
I'll
that
get
in an
Raleigh going,
affectionate
goodbye.
way. Thank you, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Thanks for listening. Chat to you soon. Bye.